They say silence is a woman's loudest cry, but in Alara's case it was the calm before a nuclear storm. For 3 years she scrubbed floors, cooked dinners, and endured the sneers of a husband who forgot her worth and a mother-in-law who treated her like a servant. On their 3rd anniversary, instead of a gift, she was handed divorce papers and a trash bag for her clothes. They thought they were kicking out a penniless housewife. They didn't know they were actually declaring war on the hidden CEO of the global conglomerate about to buy their family business. They wanted her gone. Fine. But when she walks out that door, their luck walks out with her. The chandelier in the dining room of the Sterling estate was made of Austrian crystal, costing more than most families earned in a decade. Beneath its cold, fracturing light, Alara Vance sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was wearing a simple beige dress, one she had bought at a discount store 3 years ago. It was the only thing that still fit her loosely enough to hide the tension in her shoulders. Across the mahogany table sat Liam Sterling, her husband. He was handsome, with the kind of sharp jawline and brooding eyes that graced the covers of Forbes and GQ. But tonight those eyes were cowardly. He was staring at his wine glass, swirling the deep red vintage Cabernet, refusing to look at the woman he had married exactly 3 years ago today. "Happy anniversary, Alara!" A voice dripped with venom from the head of the table. It was Victoria Sterling, Liam's mother, the matriarch of Sterling Industries. She was a woman who wore diamonds to breakfast and judged human value by tax brackets. She tapped a manicured fingernail against a thick manila envelope resting on the table. "Open it," Victoria commanded, a cruel smirk playing on her lips. Liam spent a lot of time picking it out. Alara looked at Liam. "Liam," she whispered. Her voice was soft, the voice of a woman who had learned that speaking up only invited ridicule. "What is this?" Liam finally looked up. There was no love in his gaze, only a mix of irritation and pity. "Just open it, Alara. Let's not make a scene." Alara reached out, her fingers trembling slightly. She undid the clasp of the envelope and slid the papers out. The bold text at the top screamed in silent legal fury, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." The room went deadly silent. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. "Divorce?" Alara asked, her voice barely audible. "On our anniversary." "Oh, stop the wounded deer act," Victoria snapped, taking a sip of her wine. "It's been 3 years, Alara. 3 years of you dragging this family down. Look at you. You're a mouse. You have no connections, no money, no pedigree. Sterling Industries is facing a liquidity crisis, and we need Liam to marry someone who brings value to the table. Not whatever you are." Alara felt a cold numbness spread through her chest. She looked at the man she had loved, the man she had met in a coffee shop when he was just an ambitious heir trying to prove himself. She had supported him emotionally when his father died. She had managed his home, his diet, his life, so he could focus on the company. "Is this what you want, Liam?" she asked, ignoring Victoria. "You're trading me for a business deal." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not just business, Alara. We don't fit anymore. I need a partner who understands my world. Jessica. She understands the pressure I'm under. Her father is the senator. It's a merger of power." "Jessica," Alara repeated. "Jessica Thorne, your childhood friend." "She's more than a friend now," Victoria interjected gleefully. "And unlike you, she doesn't shop at Goodwill. She's on her way here now to celebrate the engagement. So be a dear and sign the papers before the real guests arrive." Alara looked down at the document. Page 4, Section B, Alimony and Asset Division. "It says here, I get nothing." Alara noted, her eyes scanning the legal jargon. "Zero alimony, no claim to the marital assets. Just nothing." "You came with nothing, you leave with nothing," Victoria hissed. "We were generous enough to feed and house you for 3 years. Consider that your payment. Now sign it, or my lawyers will make sure you're buried in so much litigation you won't be able to afford a bus ticket out of here." Alara closed her eyes for a moment. Memories of her life before Liam flashed through her mind. The boardrooms in Tokyo, the private jets to Davos, The relentless high-stakes negotiations that had earned her the nickname the Iron Orchid in the global market. She had stepped away from it all, entrusting her empire Aurelia Holdings to her board of directors just so she could experience a normal life. Just to be loved for her, not her billions. She had found her answer. They didn't love her. They despised her simplicity. Alara opened her eyes. The sadness was gone. In its place was something cold, hard, and terrifyingly calm. "I'll sign," she said. Victoria laughed a harsh barking sound. "Smart girl. I knew you were spineless." Alara took the Mont Blanc pen Liam offered. She didn't hesitate. She signed her name Alara Vance with a flourish that was far too confident for a defeated woman. "Done," Alara said, sliding the papers back. "Good," Liam said, snatching the papers as if he feared she might change her mind. I booked you an Uber. It's waiting outside. You can take whatever fits in your suitcase." "An Uber," Alara repeated. "How generous." "Don't take the silver on your way out," Victoria called out as Alara stood up. Alara didn't look back. She walked out of the dining room, up the grand staircase, and into the bedroom she had shared with a stranger. She didn't pack clothes. She didn't pack the jewelry Liam had given her on their first anniversary. She reached into the back of her closet, into a hidden compartment of an old battered duffel bag. She pulled out a sleek black phone, a satellite-encrypted device that hadn't been turned on in 3 years. She pressed the power button. The screen glowed. "Welcome back, chairwoman." She dialed a single number. "Prepare the jet," she said into the phone. Her voice dropping an octave, becoming the commanding tone that once made CEOs tremble. "And tell the board to initiate Project Eclipse. I'm coming home." The foyer of the Sterling mansion was bustling. Jessica Thorne had just arrived, draped in a red Versace gown that screamed new mistress of the house. She was giggling, hanging onto Liam's arm, while Victoria beamed at them like a proud breeder showing off prize poodles. Alara descended the stairs. She was wearing a trench coat over her simple dress and carrying a single small leather bag. The laughter stopped as they saw her. "Oh, look," Jessica sneered, swirling her champagne. "The maid is leaving. Did you remember to leave the keys, sweetie?" Alara stopped on the bottom step. She looked at Jessica, then at Liam, and finally at Victoria. "I left the keys on the nightstand," Alara said calmly. "Along with my wedding ring. It's a fake, by the way. Cubic zirconia. I had it appraised last year." Liam's face flushed red. "That's a lie. That ring cost $5,000. "You were ripped off, Liam," Alara said, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. "But that seems to be a recurring theme in your life. You have a knack for valuing the wrong things." "Get out!" Victoria shrieked, stepping forward. "Get out of my house before I have security throw you out." "I'm going," Alara said. She walked to the massive oak doors. Before she opened them, she paused. "Liam, one piece of advice. When you negotiate the merger with Aurelia Holdings next week, read the fine print." Liam frowned. "How do you know about the Aurelia merger that's confidential?" "Everyone knows," Alara lied smoothly. "It's the only thing that can save your failing company." She opened the door and stepped into the cool night air. The heavy door slammed shut behind her, sealing her past life away forever. On the driveway, a sad-looking Toyota Camry, the Uber Liam had called, was idling. The driver looked bored. Alara walked past the Uber. She kept walking down the long, winding driveway lined with manicured hedges. As she reached the main iron gates of the estate, the shadows shifted. A cavalcade of 3 black SUVs, massive Cadillac Escalades with tinted windows, pulled up silently to the curb. They were followed by a sleek silver Maybach Exalero, one of the rarest cars in the world. A man in a sharp black suit stepped out of the Maybach. He was older, with graying temples and the posture of a former SAS operative. This was Silas, her head of security and oldest confidant. Silas bowed deeply, ignoring the mud on his polished shoes. "Madam Ilara," he said, his voice thick with relief. "It has been too long." "Too long, Silas," Ilara replied. She shed the cheap trench coat, dropping it onto the pavement like a dead skin. Silas immediately draped a cashmere coat over her shoulders, worth more than the car Liam drove. "The board is assembling in New York," Silas reported as he opened the rear door of the Maybach. "The acquisition of Sterling Industries is scheduled for next Friday. They are expecting a tough negotiation with the current CEO, Liam Sterling." Ilara slid into the leather interior of the car. She accepted a glass of sparkling water from the console. "There won't be a negotiation," Ilara said, her eyes reflecting the city lights in the distance. "Crush them. I want the stock price to drop by 40% before I even walk into the room. And Silas?" "Yes, madam." "Get me a meeting with the bankers, specifically the ones holding the debt on the Sterling estate. I think it's time the bank called in the loan." Silas smiled, a rare, dangerous expression. "With pleasure." The convoy sped off into the night, leaving the Sterling estate behind. Inside the mansion, Liam was toasting to his new freedom, unaware that the woman he had just discarded was about to become his landlord, his boss, and his executioner. The next morning, New York City. The headquarters of Aurelia Holdings dominated the Manhattan skyline. It was a glass needle piercing the clouds, a monument to capitalism and power. Ilara walked through the lobby. She was no longer the mousy housewife in beige. She wore a tailored white power suit by Alexander McQueen, her hair slicked back her heels, clicking a rhythm of war on the marble floor. The receptionist, a young woman who had started only a year ago, gasped as she saw the entourage enter. She didn't recognize Ilara. Few people had seen the recluse owner in years, but she recognized power. "Inform the executives," Ilara said to the stunned security guard at the elevator bank. "The chairwoman has returned." Up on the 80th floor, the news hit like a bomb. The interim CEO, a man named Marcus Thorne, Jessica's uncle, coincidentally was sitting in his office when his secretary burst in. "Mr. Thorne, you need to see this," she stammered, turning on the TV. The news ticker on Bloomberg was flashing red. Aurelia Holdings founder returns from sabbatical. Market rallies. "She's back," Marcus whispered, his face paling. "But she was supposed to be retired in the Swiss Alps. Why now?" The door to his office slammed open. Ilara stood there, flanked by Silas and two lawyers. "Get out of my chair, Marcus," Ilara said quietly. "Ilara, Madam Vance," Marcus stuttered, scrambling up. We didn't expect you. We have the Sterling merger coming up." "I know," Ilara said, walking behind the massive oak desk that felt so familiar. She sat down, spinning the chair to face the panoramic view of the city. "That's why I'm here. Bring me the Sterling file, and get me a list of every investor backing Liam Sterling." "What are you going to do?" Marcus asked, terrified. Ilara turned her eyes cold as ice. "I'm going to teach my ex-husband a lesson in economics," she said. "Lesson 1, never underestimate an asset you can't afford to lose." The mood in the Sterling household had shifted from celebratory to catastrophic. Liam was pacing his office at Sterling Industries. His tie was undone, his hair a mess. "What do you mean they pulled the financing?" he shouted into the phone. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling." The banker's voice was apologetic but firm. "The risk assessment on Sterling Industries has changed. With the divorce pending and the rumors of instability. The divorce is personal. It has nothing to do with the company." "In family businesses, the personal is the professional, Liam," the banker said. "We're freezing the credit line. You have 48 hours to secure the Aurelia merger, or we begin foreclosure proceedings on the factory." The line went dead. Liam slammed the phone down. Victoria was sitting on the leather couch, looking unusually pale. "It's happening everywhere, Liam," she said, her voice trembling. "The country club just revoked my membership. They said there was an administrative error, but I saw the list. We've been blacklisted." And the vendors? Liam asked. Stop shipping parts this morning, his VP of Operations said, standing by the door. They said they have a new exclusive contract with a parent company that forbids them from supplying us. If we don't get those parts, production stops tomorrow. Who is the parent company? Liam demanded. A shell corporation called Nemesis LLC, the VP said. But all roads lead back to Aurelia Holdings. Aurelia again. Liam smashed his fist on the desk. Why are they squeezing us? We're supposed to be merging. Maybe they want a better price, Victoria suggested. They smell blood in the water. You need to meet with their CEO. You need to charm them, Liam, just like you charmed Jessica. I've been trying, Liam yelled. The CEO is a ghost. No one has seen her in years. They say she's back, but she refuses to take meetings. Just then Jessica walked in. She wasn't wearing her usual designer smile. She looked annoyed. Liam, my credit card was declined, she complained. I tried to buy a dress for the gala tonight and it said insufficient funds. You told me you added me to the Limitless account. Not now, Jessica, Liam snapped. Don't yell at me, she retorted. Fix it. My father is asking why your stock dropped 15% this morning. If you go bankrupt, Liam, I can't exactly marry you. It would look bad for the campaign. Liam looked at the three women in his life, his mother, his fiancée, and his secretary. All of them demanded something. None of them offered help. For a split second, he remembered coming home late at night exhausted to find a warm meal and a quiet listening ear. He remembered Alara rubbing his temples, telling him he was strong enough to handle it. No, he thought, shaking his head. She was weak. She was a burden. This is just business. His secretary's intercom buzzed. Mr. Sterling, you have a courier package. It's marked urgent from Aurelia Holdings. Bring it in. The secretary hurried in with a black envelope embossed with a gold A. Liam ripped it open. Inside was a single heavy card. You are cordially invited to the Aurelia Gala tonight at the Pierre Hotel. The chairwoman requests your presence to discuss the future of Sterling Industries. Attendance is mandatory. This is it, Liam said, exhaling a breath he didn't know he was holding. The chairwoman is finally coming out of hiding. This is my chance. You have to go, Victoria said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. And we are coming with you. We need to show strength, family unity. I'm coming too, Jessica added. I need to make sure this chairwoman knows you're taken. Liam nodded. Tonight we win. I'll convince her to sign the deal. By tomorrow morning, we'll be billionaires. Little did they know the invitation wasn't a peace offering. It was a summons to their own execution. The grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel was transformed into a realm of gold and obsidian. It was a gathering of the global elite titans of industry tech moguls from Silicon Valley, oil barons from the Middle East, and old money dynasties from Europe. The air smelled of orchid nectar and billions of dollars. When the Sterling limousine pulled up to the curb, Liam felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. The paparazzi were out in full force, their flashbulbs popping like strobe lights. Usually Liam loved the attention. Tonight it felt like an interrogation lamp. Chin up, Liam, Victoria snapped, adjusting her diamond necklace. You look like you're walking to the gallows. We are Sterlings. We belong here. I just want this over with, Liam muttered, stepping out and offering a hand to Jessica. Jessica, for her part, was eating it up. She posed for the cameras, flashing her engagement ring, a ring bought on credit that was currently maxed out. They love us, she whispered. Look at them. But as they entered the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted. The noise didn't stop, but the temperature seemed to drop. People glanced at them and then whispered behind champagne flutes. It wasn't the whispers of admiration. It was the distinct sharp gossip of the social elite watching a train wreck. Is that Liam Sterling? A man near the entrance murmured loud enough to be heard. I heard Aurelia pulled their funding, dead man walking. And the mother, a woman in Chanel added. Victoria, I heard she was banned from the Hamptons Charity Board. Unpaid dues. Victoria stiffened, her smile turning brittle. She marched forward, eyes locked on the VIP section. Ignore them. Jealousy is the tribute mediocrity pays to genius. They found a high-top table near the back. It was far from the stage, a deliberate slight by the event organizers. "This is ridiculous," Jessica complained, looking around. "Why are we back here? We should be at the front. Liam, go tell them who we are." "I can't just move us, Jessica," Liam hissed. "We are guests. We wait for the chairwoman." "Where is she anyway?" Victoria scanned the room with narrowed eyes. "It's typical power play. Make everyone wait." A waiter passed by with a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Liam grabbed a glass of scotch, his hand shaking slightly. He needed liquid courage. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. The lights dimmed, leaving only a single spotlight on the grand staircase at the front of the ballroom. A man stepped up to the microphone. It was Marcus Thorne, the interim CEO of Aurelia Holdings, the man Liam had been trying to call for weeks. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus's voice boomed through the speakers. "Distinguished guests. For 5 years, Aurelia Holdings has grown into the most powerful conglomerate in the Western Hemisphere. We have acquired tech firms in San Francisco, shipping lines in Greece, and real estate in London. But the heart of Aurelia has always been its vision." Liam leaned forward. "Here it comes, the merger announcement. Many of you know me as the CEO," Marcus continued, "but I am merely a steward. The true genius, the architect of this empire, has been away on a personal sabbatical, but tonight she returns to take her rightful place at the head of the table." The crowd murmured. The mystery of the Aurelia founder was legendary. Some said it was a Russian oligarch. Others thought it was a recluse tech genius. "Please rise," Marcus said, his voice trembling with genuine reverence, "and welcome the founder and chairwoman of Aurelia Holdings, Ms. Elara Vance." Liam dropped his glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing in the silence. "Who?" Victoria whispered, her face twisting in confusion. "Did he say Elara?" "No." Jessica laughed nervously. "It's a common name. It can't be that Elara. She's probably washing dishes right now." But then the double doors at the top of the staircase opened. For a moment time seemed to suspend itself. The woman who stepped onto the balcony was not the Elara they knew. The Elara they knew wore oversized sweaters to hide her figure, kept her hair in a messy bun, and looked at the floor when spoken to. This woman was a deity. She wore a custom gown of midnight blue velvet that hugged her figure like a second skin slid up the thigh to reveal a leg that ended in a diamond-encrusted stiletto. Her hair, a cascade of rich mahogany waves, flowed over her shoulders. Around her neck sat the Star of the East, a sapphire and diamond necklace that had been missing from the public eye since a Christie's auction 3 years ago, where it sold for $12 million. She stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at the crowd with eyes that held the weight of oceans. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She simply existed, and her existence commanded absolute submission. "Oh my God," Liam choked out. The breath had left his body. He felt like he had been punched in the gut. "It's her," Victoria gasped, clutching the table for support. It's the girl. It's the maid." "That necklace is fake," Jessica screeched, though her voice was thin and panicked. "It has to be fake. She doesn't have money." Elara began to descend the stairs. Every step was deliberate. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as she reached the floor. Billionaires bowed their heads. A senator reached out to shake her hand, and she nodded to him graciously, speaking a few words that made him laugh with delight. She moved through the room flanked by Silas and a phalanx of security. She was heading straight for the stage, but her path took her dangerously close to the back of the room, close to the Sterlings. Liam felt a primal urge to run, but his legs were frozen. He watched as the woman he had divorced 3 days ago, the woman he had called boring and plain, approached. She stopped 10 feet away. The crowd around them went silent, sensing the tension. They formed a circle, watching the interaction with hungry eyes. Elara turned slowly. Her gaze swept over Victoria, dismissed her as irrelevant, skipped over Jessica like she was a stain on the carpet, and landed on Liam. "Mr. Sterling," Alara said. Her voice was smooth, cultured, and amplified by the acoustics of the silent room. I see you received my invitation. Alara! Liam's voice cracked. He sounded like a child. What is this? This is my company, Liam, she said simply. Did you think I spent those business trips visiting my aunt in Ohio? I was building an empire while you were struggling to manage a single factory. But the house, Victoria stammered, stepping forward, trying to regain some dominance. You scrubbed the floors. You cooked the meals. You were a nobody. Alara laughed softly. It was a terrifying sound. I scrubbed floors because I wanted to take care of my husband. I cooked meals because I wanted to build a home. I played the role of a supportive wife because I thought you needed a partner, not a competitor. I lowered myself to fit into your small world, Victoria, and you mistook my humility for weakness. Jessica stepped in front of Liam, her face red with jealousy. You're lying. If you're so rich, why did you let Liam divorce you? Why didn't you fight? Alara looked at Jessica with genuine pity. Because, Jessica, I don't fight for things that have no value. By the time he handed me those papers, he was already worthless to me. A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Someone gasped. Now, Alara said, checking her diamond-encrusted watch. I have a keynote speech to give, but don't leave Liam. We have a merger to discuss, and I promise you, it's going to be the most memorable negotiation of your life. She turned and walked away, the train of her dress sweeping the floor where Liam's dignity lay shattered. The silence in the Pierre Hotel's grand ballroom was heavy, a physical weight that pressed down on the lungs of everyone present. 300 of the world's most powerful people, billionaires, senators, and icons, held their breath. At the back of the room, the Sterling family stood frozen in a spotlight of their own making. Liam Sterling felt a line of sweat trickle down his spine, soaking into his dress shirt. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Beside him, Victoria was gripping her clutch so hard her knuckles were white, her face a mask of frozen, terrifying disbelief. Jessica was rapidly blinking her eyes, darting around the room, looking for an exit that didn't exist. It's a trick, Victoria hissed, though her voice lacked its usual venom. It was thin, reedy. She's an actress. Someone hired her. That is not the girl who burned the pot roast last Sunday. Liam couldn't speak. He couldn't take his eyes off the woman on the stage. Alara stood behind the glass podium, bathed in the soft, commanding glow of the stage lights. She didn't look angry. She didn't look vengeful. She looked like a queen surveying a colony of ants. She adjusted the microphone, the diamond bracelet on her wrist catching the light. A bracelet Liam realized with a jolt was worth more than his entire car collection. Ladies and gentlemen, Alara began, her voice rich and steady, echoing perfectly through the high-end sound system. Thank you for that warm welcome. Tonight is a night of revelation. For years, Aurelia Holdings has operated in the shadows, moving markets and shaping industries from behind a curtain of anonymity. But I have learned that sometimes to fix a broken system, you must step into the light. She paused, her gaze drifting slowly across the room until it locked directly onto Liam. The camera feed cut to her face, projecting her intense stare onto the 3 massive IMAX-sized screens behind her. It felt like she was looking into the soul of every person in the room. We are here to discuss the future, Alara continued. Specifically the acquisition of a legacy brand that has been the subject of much speculation this week, Sterling Industries. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Liam felt a sudden, desperate surge of hope. His knees nearly buckled with relief. She's going to do it, he thought. She's going to buy the company. She still loves you, Jessica whispered, frantically grabbing Liam's arm. See? She's doing this for attention. She wants you to beg, but she's going to sign the check. We're going to be rich, Liam. Victoria straightened her posture, smoothing her dress. Of course she is, she muttered, regaining her arrogance. She knows she's nothing without the Sterling name. She's trying to buy her way back into the family. On stage, Alara clicked a remote in her hand. The screens behind her changed. A massive graph appeared showing a jagged red line plummeting downward. For the past 6 months, Alara narrated, stepping out from behind the podium to walk the stage, my team has been conducting due diligence on Sterling Industries. We looked for value. We looked for innovation. We looked for integrity. She stopped walking. We found none. The room gasped. It was a sharp collective intake of breath. In the corporate world, you politely declined a merger. You didn't eviscerate the target on a live stage. The numbers you see behind me, Alara gestured to the red line, represent the real financial health of Sterling Industries, not the cooked books they show their shareholders, not the inflated projections they sent to the banks. These are the real numbers. Liam's face drained of color. How? He stammered. How does she have those? Those are on the private server. When you own the network provider, Mr. Sterling, Alara said, answering his unasked question as if she could hear his thoughts. You see all the data. She clicked the remote again. A series of emails appeared on the screen. They were magnified so even the people in the back could read them. This, Alara said, pointing to an email dated 6 months prior, is an email from the CEO Liam Sterling to his chief financial officer. She read it aloud, her voice cool and detached. Use the pension fund to cover the operational deficit. We'll pay it back before the audit. No one needs to know. A shock wave went through the room. This wasn't just bad business. This was embezzlement. This was a felony. And this, she clicked again, showing a text message thread, is a conversation between Mrs. Victoria Sterling and the board of directors discussing the sourcing of materials. The screen read, Victoria, buy the substandard steel from the secondary supplier. It's 40% cheaper. Just repaint it and stamp it as grade A. The inspectors are on our payroll. Fraud, Alara stated simply, endangering public safety to fund a lifestyle of private jets and galas. Victoria let out a strangled cry. That's private. You can't show that. I'll sue you. You can try Victoria, Alara replied, her voice cutting through the air like a razor. But typically, discovery in a lawsuit requires you to hand over your records. I've just saved the court the trouble. The crowd was no longer murmuring. They were staring at the Sterling family with open hostility. People who had shaken Liam's hand 20 minutes ago were now stepping away from him, creating a physical void around the trio. They were radioactive. Liam felt the room spinning. This wasn't a negotiation. This was an autopsy. Because of these findings, Alara announced, Aurelia Holdings is officially and permanently withdrawing its offer to acquire Sterling Industries. No, Liam shouted. The sound tore out of his throat before he could stop it. He stepped forward, his hands shaking. Alara, please, you can't do this. The company, it's my father's legacy. It will collapse. Alara looked down at him from the stage. Your father's legacy died the day you took over, Liam. You didn't build this company. You cannibalized it. But the employees, Liam pleaded, trying to find an angle she would care about. 3,000 people will lose their jobs. Actually, they won't, Alara said. A small, mysterious smile played on her lips. She clicked the remote one more time. The screen went black, then flashed with a new document. It wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a legal contract. The header was bold and unmistakable, debt purchase agreement. You see, Liam, Alara explained, walking to the edge of the stage and looking down at him. I knew you would default. I knew the banks were nervous. So while you were busy planning your engagement party with Ms. Thorne, she glanced at Jessica, who shrank back under the spotlight. I was busy meeting with your creditors. As of 9:00 a.m. this morning, Aurelia Holdings has purchased 100% of the debt held by Sterling Industries. I am now your primary creditor. I own your loans. I own your mortgages. I own your liabilities. She leaned in closer to the microphone. which means I have the right to seize collateral immediately upon default. And since you missed your interest payment yesterday—" She snapped her fingers. "The company is mine, not via merger, not via purchase, but via foreclosure." Liam staggered back as if he had been physically struck. You stole it." "I repossessed it," Alara corrected him. "I'm going to restructure it. I'm going to fire the executive board starting with you, your mother, and your cousin Marcus. I'm going to reinstate the pension fund using the assets I seized from your personal accounts, and I'm going to save those 3,000 jobs by putting competent people in charge." The room erupted in applause. It started slow, then built into a roar. The elites in the room respected one thing above all else: the ruthless, intelligent exercise of power. Alara had just played the ultimate hand of poker, but she wasn't done. "Wait," Alara commanded, raising a hand. The applause died down instantly. "There is one final piece of business, a personal matter." She signaled to the tech booth. The screen changed one last time. This time it displayed a document that looked painfully familiar to Liam. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Liam felt his stomach drop to the floor. 3 days ago," Alara said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming softer, but infinitely more dangerous. "My husband handed me these papers on our 3rd anniversary. He told me I was a burden. He told me I brought nothing to the table. His mother," she gestured to the trembling Victoria, "called me a leech." Alara walked back to the podium and picked up a laser pointer. A red dot appeared on the screen, circling a specific paragraph. "Clause 4B, Alara read aloud. "Asset division. The parties agree that all assets shall remain the sole property of the original owner. No alimony shall be sought or awarded. The wife, Alara Vance, leaves the marriage with only her personal effects." She looked at Liam, a look of pure, unadulterated pity. "You fought so hard for this clause, Liam. You paid your lawyers extra to ensure I couldn't touch a penny of the sterling money. You were so terrified that the poor housewife was after your gold." She laughed, a genuine melodious sound that chilled him to the bone. "You didn't know that by forcing me to sign this, you were protecting my billions from you." The realization hit the crowd like a thunderclap. Laughter broke out, mocking, derisive laughter. The irony was too delicious. The Sterlings had divorced a multi-billionaire to protect a bankrupt company, and in doing so had legally cut themselves off from the only fortune that could have saved them. "I am worth $40 billion, Liam," Alara said casually. "And thanks to the document you wrote, you aren't entitled to a single dime of it." Victoria let out a screech of pure agony. "40 billion!" she screamed, her eyes rolling back in her head. She swayed and collapsed into the arms of a nearby waiter, fainting from the sheer financial horror of the number. Jessica looked at Liam. The look of adoration was gone. It was replaced by the cold calculation of a rat on a sinking ship. She physically took a step away from him. "You idiot," Jessica whispered loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. "You absolute moron." Liam stood alone. His mother was unconscious. His fiancée was revulsed. His peers were laughing at him. He looked up at Alara, tears streaming down his face. "Alara! Why didn't you tell me?" Alara looked at him, her expression hardening into stone. "Because, Liam," she said into the microphone, delivering the final blow, "a marriage is a partnership. If you couldn't love me when I was Alara the housewife, you don't deserve me as Alara the chairwoman. You fell in love with a status symbol." She pointed at Jessica. "So now you can live with the consequences." She turned to the security team standing in the wings. "Chief Silas?" Silas stepped forward, looking formidable in his black suit. "Yes, madam. These individuals are trespassing on Aurelia property. And since I now own the debt on the clothes on their backs—" Alara paused, looking at Liam's tuxedo. "Actually, never mind. Let them keep the clothes. I don't want them back. Just get them out of my sight." "With pleasure," Silas said. 4 large security guards descended on the Sterling party. Two of them hoisted the groggy Victoria up by her armpits. Another grabbed Liam's arm firmly. "Don't touch me!" Liam shouted, trying to regain a shred of dignity. "I can walk. I am Liam Sterling." "You're a trespasser, sir." The guard grunted, shoving him toward the exit. As they were frog-marched through the center of the ballroom, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. But they didn't look away. They watched. They took photos. They recorded videos on their phones. Liam looked into the faces of the people he had tried so hard to impress. He saw no sympathy. He saw only amusement. He was no longer one of them. He was entertainment. At the massive double doors, Liam looked back one last time. Ilara was already turning away, speaking to a senator who had approached the stage. She was smiling, radiant, powerful. She didn't look back. She didn't watch him leave. To her, he was already gone. The doors slammed shut behind him, cutting off the warmth, the light, and the music, leaving Liam Sterling standing in the cold, empty hallway of a hotel he could no longer afford, with nothing but the echo of applause ringing in his ears. Applause for the woman he had thrown away. The following morning did not bring sunshine to the Sterling estate. It brought a torrential downpour, a gray, weeping sky that matched the devastation unfolding on the ground. At 8:00 a.m. sharp, the gates of the estate were forced open. Not by guests, but by a convoy of trucks bearing the logo of a foreclosure liquidation firm. Inside the mansion, chaos reigned. "You can't take that!" Victoria screamed, tugging at a Louis XIV chair that two burly movers were hoisting up. "That has been in my family for 4 generations. Check the inventory, lady." The mover grunted, not even looking at her. "Everything inside the dwelling is listed as collateral against the defaulted loan. It belongs to the bank now. Let go or I'll have to call the sheriff." Victoria collapsed onto the cold floor, sobbing into her hands. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a bird's nest of despair. For the first time in her life, her name meant nothing. Her threats held no weight. She was just an old woman screaming at men who were just doing their jobs. In the driveway, Jessica was frantically trying to shove suitcases into the trunk of Liam's sports car. "Where are you going?" Liam asked, standing in the doorway. He was wearing the same tuxedo from the night before, now rumpled and stained. He looked like a ghost. Jessica didn't look up. "I'm going to my parents' house in the Hamptons. If I leave now, I can beat the traffic." "We can figure this out, Jess," Liam pleaded, stepping into the rain. "I just need time. I can get a lawyer. We can fight the foreclosure." Jessica spun around, her eyes blazing with disgust. "Fight it with what money, Liam? You're bankrupt. Your credit is frozen. You have nothing." She slammed the trunk shut. "I'm not going to be the wife of a pauper," she spat. "I signed up for the Sterling dynasty, not a homeless shelter. Don't call me." She got into the car and turned the key. The engine sputtered and died. She tried again. Nothing. A black tow truck backed up to the front of the sports car. "Hey." Jessica rolled down the window. "What are you doing?" The driver hopped out holding a clipboard. "Repossession order for 1 Aston Martin. Missed payments. You need to step out of the vehicle, ma'am." Jessica screamed in frustration, banging her hands on the steering wheel. She eventually scrambled out, grabbed her bags, and began walking down the long driveway in her high heels, dragging her luggage through the mud. She didn't look back. Liam watched her go. He felt a strange emptiness. He realized with a jolt of horror that he didn't miss her. He didn't care that she was leaving. He only cared about the woman he had pushed away. A sleek black umbrella appeared over his head, shielding him from the rain. He turned. Silas stood there holding the umbrella for Ilara. She was dressed in a sharp beige trench coat, waterproof boots, and dark sunglasses. She looked like a general surveying a conquered battlefield. She didn't look angry. She looked peaceful. "Ilara," Liam whispered. He dropped to his knees in the mud. He didn't care about the indignity. He had no dignity left. "Get up, Liam," Ilara said softly. "You're ruining your suit. I don't care about the suit, he choked out. I don't care about the money. I realized it last night, Alara. When you walked away, I realized I was looking at the only real thing I ever had. Please. I'll sign a prenup. I'll work in the mailroom. I just want you back. Alara looked down at him. For a second her eyes softened. She remembered the man she had met in the coffee shop, the man who had made her laugh before the weight of his family's expectations crushed his soul. I believe that you're sorry, Liam, she said. Hope flared in his eyes. Then, but being sorry doesn't fix a broken glass. She continued, her voice steady. You didn't just divorce me, Liam. You allowed your family to humiliate me. You watched your mother treat me like a slave and said nothing because it was easier for you. You brought your mistress into our home while my side of the bed was still warm. She shook her head. That kind of betrayal isn't a mistake. It's a character flaw, and I don't invest in flawed assets. Victoria came stumbling out of the house clutching a small box of jewelry. When she saw Alara, she froze. You witch! Victoria hissed, though the fire was gone from her voice, replaced by fear. Are you happy you've destroyed us? I didn't destroy you, Victoria, Alara replied coolly. I just stopped saving you. For 3 years my private funds secretly covered the deficits in your company. My connections kept the creditors away. I was the dam holding back the flood. All I did yesterday was step aside and let nature take its course. Victoria's mouth fell open. You were paying the bills. Who do you think paid for your trip to Paris last year? Alara raised an eyebrow. Sterling Industries hasn't made a profit since 2019. I was keeping this family afloat because I loved your son. But you were too busy mocking my discount clothes to notice who was actually signing the checks. Alara turned to Silas. Silas, hand them the envelope. Silas pulled a thick white envelope from his jacket and handed it to Liam. Liam took it with trembling hands. What is this, my severance? Alara said. Inside is a check for $50,000. It's enough to rent a small apartment, buy some groceries, and start looking for a job. 50,000? Victoria scoffed, though she eyed the envelope greedily. That won't last a month. Then I suggest you learn to budget, Alara said sharply. Consider it a final kindness, because after today, if you or your mother ever contact me or approach any of my properties, I will have you arrested for harassment. Alara turned around and walked back toward her waiting Maybach. Alara. Liam cried out one last time. What are you going to do now? Alara paused with her hand on the car door. She looked out at the horizon where the storm clouds were finally beginning to break, revealing a sliver of blue sky. I'm going to Paris, she said, a genuine smile lighting up her face. I have a meeting with a new acquisition target, and after that I'm going to live. Truly live. She got into the car. The door shut with a solid final thud. As the car drove away splashing through the puddles, Liam Sterling stood in the rain holding a check that felt like a consolation prize for a life he had thrown away with both hands. He looked at the mansion now boarded up and seized. He looked at his mother, who was weeping over a wet box of trinkets. He had wanted a merger of power. He had wanted a life of luxury. He had held the whole world in his arms every night for 3 years, and he had traded it for a reflection in a mirror that was now shattered. For the first time, Liam Sterling understood the true cost of things. But the lesson had come exactly 3 days too late. And that is how Alara Vance turned her pain into power. She didn't just get revenge, she got justice. She taught the Sterling family a lesson that money can't buy. You never know who you are talking to, so treat everyone with respect. Liam and Victoria spent the rest of their lives chasing the shadow of the wealth they once had, while Alara continued to build her empire surrounded by people who loved her for who she was, not what she owned. It's a brutal reminder that sometimes the person you are stepping on is the only one holding the ground beneath your feet. What do you think? Was Alara too harsh in the end, or did Liam and his family deserve to lose everything? If you were in her shoes, would you have given him a second chance? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.